Sit, hold tight.
Thought there was a third one there. Okay, to the defensive side in Dallas, All-Pro DN Robert Quinn appealed his 2-game suspension for violating the NFL's PED policy. The appeal was denied. Add that to coming off of surgery to repair a broken left hand, and you'd think Dallas's newest weapon would be hard-pressed to find a silver lining. But according to Quinn, this is just part of the journey.
It's just part of it.
This is just life. It's like, this is nothing. You know, I've been through a lot worse than, you know, a messed up hand and, you know, a couple games. So this is just life. You deal with them. You know, you deal with adversity, and either, you know, it makes you weaker or stronger. So that's just on the person, how he deals with it.
All right, see, let's talk about the issues that Dallas is now facing on defense, specifically the D-line. We've spent weeks talking about their offense. Is their defense a little bit underrated, or are we just not talking about it?
There are no Super Bowl aspirations unless Dallas has the type of defense that they put out there the last 3 years. I believe that there's been no unit that we have avoided either or missed talking about their defensive line. They can't start the season. They don't have a defensive front right now. We talk about their linebackers, how good they are. They have 3 of them. Sean Lee even signed him back. But those linebackers, if they can't be free to run to the ball, because that's one thing they have in common. All of them are very fast. But you have to have linemen who are clutching and grabbing the offensive linemen to keep them from getting up on the linebackers. That is the style. Rod Marinelli, who's the defensive coordinator there, he has done a tremendous job of teaching defense. We had the stat that when this defense plays less than 30 minutes, they were undefeated last year. So it's a combination. Zeke's not there. That's a problem because he leans on that offensive line, and them leaning on the defense allows their defense that is a little undersized to play less than 30 minutes, and that's when they're effective. So they brought Robert Quinn in to play opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence. But they also brought him in to be a leader and to stabilize that defensive line room that has been in flux for the last several years. Multiple suspensions, multiple young players not living up to their talent. So that's what they brought Quinn in, and now he's suspended. So the last 5 years, the Dallas Cowboys have had at least one starter on their defense that has been suspended for something that they could have avoided. So there's huge problems in Dallas. I believe that people need to give this more attention because this is not a Super Bowl or playoff team unless they have that front 7 intact. And right now, 2 of their starters are on PUP. One of them has a broke hand and is suspended. So they can't afford to get into a high-scoring game. They can't outscore the Saints. They can't outscore the Falcons, the Rams. They can't outscore these teams. Green Bay. No, they can't do that. So this is a huge development, and I think we should be on top of it because it will affect how the NFL season's played out.
The highest paid player on their defense and the best player on their defense ostensibly is DeMarcus Lawrence. He's on PUP list. The second highest paid player on their defense and one of the best players on their defense, Tyrone Crawford, he's on the PUP list. Robert Quinn, who is their biggest front 7 defensive addition, he's suspended, and Chris mentioned has a broken hand and earlier demonstrated why that broken left hand, even because you can play with a club on it, what he's going to want to do as far as a pass rushing standpoint is going to be hampered until that club comes off it. And Randy Gregory, a guy who I think has high-level talent. And we saw that. Listen, there's a reason he fell in the draft. I think it was coming out of Nebraska.
Yes.
Guys smoked a lot of weed in Nebraska. Seems to be smoking a lot of weed in the NFL. Now, whether or not you should be suspended for that is a separate discussion. I don't think you should be, but it's the rules. And he knew it was the rules, and it might have derailed, if not ended, at least temporarily derailed his
Taco Charlton, 2017 first-round pick from Michigan. He's been a bust. I don't know what Nick considers a bust. 3 sacks his rookie year, 1 sack last year. You're going into your 3rd year, and you have all these opportunities on this defensive line. Thus far, he's been a bust from the University of Michigan.
And we know that the Cowboys right now are not bullish on him, or else they wouldn't have targeted Robert Quinn in the offseason. They paid DeMarcus Lawrence. I know you like to have a rotation of defensive linemen, but you can only spend money in so many places. Obviously, the Cowboys knew the contracts were coming up. They still went out and prioritized Robert Quinn. But the point you made about the impact this has on the maybe the best unit on their team, certainly the best unit on their defense, the linebackers, is the most important one. When they don't have, you talk about the Patriots, they got 2 linebackers that are 500 pounds combined.
Yes.
Jamie Collins, Dante Hightower. Those guys have a certain job. The Cowboys linebackers are smaller and faster. Their job is to get out in space and go make tackles. That means the defensive tackles and the defensive linemen's job to a degree is to just keep those offensive linemen. You don't see defensive linemen get called for holding, but it's almost what you want them to do.
Absolutely.
Hold the opposing team's offensive line in check, not necessarily try to go upfield, and let the linebackers go make plays. Well, if all of a sudden it's Antoine Woods and Taco Charlton and Dorrance Armstrong as your defensive line, along with Christian Covington, who I actually think is a pretty decent player, good backup in this league. Then Sean Lee, forget him. Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith, your two best linebackers, are less effective.
Yes.
Guys that you are relying on. And I know Byron Jones was excellent last year, but the biggest question mark on their defense is supposed to be their secondary, not their defensive line, where they've actually spent money, first-round picks, and resources. But that's where the question mark is now, at least for the beginning of the season.
And how much does that affect Dak Prescott in the offense?
It affects them because it makes them press. They can't be patient. You can't go out on the field and have 3 and out. You put the defense on a short field, then they run down and score on you. So they can't play the methodical, patient game that they have. Man, they have a game plan how to win games the last 3 years. Hand the ball to that guy 20 times. Eat up the clock, allow your defense, because your defense has been good as far as one of the top defenses and definitely one of the top scoring defenses. And it affects, it's a trickle-down effect. It affects your quarterback, makes him rush. I know your wide receiving core is better, but you still know the best way for the Cowboys is methodical. Let's run the ball 35 times. Let's get Dak about 28 to 30 throws in there. Like, that's the winning formula for them. Rod Marinelli, their defensive coordinator, has done a great job. His standard defense, he likes to rush 3 or 4. So now if I don't have that defensive line intact, you know what I got to do to Van Der Esch and them? I got to blitz them. I got to put Jalen Smith, I got to blitz him to put pressure on the quarterback, and then I got to put that secondary in question in man-to-man coverage. So then that's favorable for the offense. So the trickle-down effect on the quarterback, trickle-down effect on the linebackers, trickle-down effect on the back end on that secondary.
And there is no version of the 2019 Cowboys season that is successful without the first few weeks being successful. The second quarter of the season, they have a stretch where they've got the Saints, the Packers, and the Eagles. They have a stretch late in the season where they have the Patriots, Bears, Rams, and Eagles again. You have Giants, Washington, Miami early.
Let's go to that. Giants, who?
Washington, Miami.
Barkley?
Right,
Barkley might rush for 1,000 the first week with that defense.
And so that first few weeks of your season,
Adrian Peterson?
That's when Robert Quinn is suspended.
Yes.
We don't know if DeMarcus Lawrence and Tyrone Crawford will be back. And oh yeah, by the way, Zeke's in Mexico. So that opening stretch where you should be favored, where you have to win those games, they might be without 3 of their most 7 talented players on the whole roster. It's a huge potential problem for Dallas on both sides of the ball.
Jerry Jones is like, I'm 82. I don't need this kind of drama, but he's got it. Coming up, is he 82? 76. I'm so sorry I aged you up, Jerry. 70 what? Forget it. Why are the Giants hoping to keep rookie Daniel Jones off the field? That's next on First.
Turns 77 October 13th.
Jerry said, don't worry about it. I got a doctor in Dallas. Might tighten me up. Might be time